Welcome to the first MCS webinar. I'd like to introduce my colleagues. On my right, that probably you're seeing on the left, it's Javier Dorao. And on the right, my left, sorry, it's Tono Fernández. Javier Dorao, it's a former student of the MCS. He is a civil engineer, and right now he's the coordinator of the second year of the MCS. And Tono Fernández, he's an architect by education, and he's a partner in IDOM Engineers. That's the biggest engineering company, one of the biggest in Spain, and they also have an architecture branch. Okay, the structure of today, we are having a lecture by Javier, which is called How Do You Design Personalized Cities? And Tono is presenting anti-stack thinking tools. Afterwards, after those presentations, we hope will last about 20 minutes each, we'll have a round of questions, so you can learn more about their work and also about their MCS master. Okay, first of all, just before starting, I'd like to present the MCS a little bit. The MCS is a master, and it's focused on innovation and the new challenges in cities, and is structured around 10 modules. Each of the modules comes with a module director. He's one of the biggest, the biggest experts on each of the fields in Spain. And this module director has the capacity to choose between other experts internationally, and has an unlimited budget to use and to invite those personalities. These experts, internationally well known, normally range from other educational institutions such as MIT or Oxford, Harvard, and also from the professional environment. We have Arab engineers as partners, and also PricewaterhouseCoopers, for instance. Yeah, so with the structure, the master tries to provide with the most holistic and global scope in order to be able to understand how cities work and how challenges in cities can be tackled. Okay, I don't want to take the time from my colleagues, so I will just pass the word on to them so they can start with the presentations. First of all, we have Javier talking about how do you design personalized cities.
Well, thank you very much, Alejandro, for this kind introduction. I hope everybody sees the presentation on the computers. Well, I'm very happy to be here speaking at the first MCS webinar, speaking about cities. And I would like to start with a city like Paris, because Paris is a city of love. It's a city that everybody knows. Indeed, it's the city who has the most tourists per year. Last year, it counts like more than 80 million of tourists in Paris, and it's a very attractive city to go there. Also, we have another very knowledge cities as London. London is as much knowledge as Paris, but indeed they don't have that much traction. Speaking about the tourists, what we know about London is more the neighborhood in the city center. They call it the city, which is the financial center and one of the most important economic engines worldwide, competing with New York and, for example, Dubai. Other type of city is Las Vegas, or the Sin City. Everybody knows about Las Vegas' reputation, and of course, if you want a 24/7 non-party party with non-stop, you should go there. We have another type of city, which for example, the tech city or Silicon Valley, which the most important and the most relevant technological companies has been started there. In the end, we have a world that is set by cities. Each city is different. They have different infrastructure, different economies, different societies, different cultures. However, one thing is clear. We like to live in cities. Today, 50% of population is living in cities, and in 2020, we expect living there 70%. But if you look in a picture like that, the favelas in Rio, comes to my mind that it's difficult to understand why people prefer to live there in a place without sanitation, with a poor healthcare, in an informal settlement, and with lack of security, instead of living in the countryside. And the reason is also very clear. The people go to the city because they want to develop their career. They want to. They are looking for more in their lives. As you can see in this graph, whenever a country gets more urbanized, this country gets more richer in people per capita. I mean, in the money they get the people with per person in the country. So that's mean that people when they are urbanized, they are richer than when they are not. If you see to the graph in the vertical axis, you see that they have several scales, and that's mean that when people get together, when smart people get together in a place like in a city, it's much better for them, and the synergy that they get is higher than the one we will get separately. Here is another picture of Rio, which represents very well the gap between the people living in the city and the people living in the country. When the people living in the city get all the basics, start to asking for another accommodation, as can be that pool or that garden for the children's play. However, when the people comes to the countryside, to the city, they have some problems to afford the issues, the rates of a settlement of a house in that cities. So they start to build that informal settlements that brings with all the externalities that I mentioned, as lack of sanitation or lack of security. However, this is not a problem only for unplanned city. You see here, this is Madar, probably the most planned city in the world. Tono is going to speak also about it. This city accomplishes all the standards of sustainability. It's powered by solar panels. The streets are designed to natural ventilation. All the materials are designed to the thermic comfort. However, this city is a desert. And I'm not saying that because this city is built in a desert, that it is indeed. I'm saying that because nobody lives there. And nobody lives there because it's not allowing them that opportunities, that development opportunities. So nobody wanted to go to leave their places to go a place without known opportunities. When I was working last year in India, working for the European Commission, the Department of India, I was hired to understand how the city works, how the Indian city works, and how we can help to make a sustainable development in their cities, and how especially the European companies can support that development. This project comes hand by hand with the Smart City Strategic Plan. They are expecting to build 100 of smart cities in India. And that's very good because it comes in the right moment. They have already the 30% of population urbanized. History tells us that when you achieve that figure, the urbanization process speed up dramatically until you get the 60–70%. So that means that they're going to need a lot of houses and a lot of and a lot of infrastructure for that people coming from the countryside to the city. However, when you look at the Indian reality, the reality that they have nowadays in cities, it's some kind of different than what you imagine from a smart city. They have informal settlements. The majority of the people is living in informal settlements. They also work on the insecure and unsustainable mobility, the mobility patterns that they have. They also work on the management of the waste management, on the formal waste management, and they work on local informal shops. So that is not what you think about what you need in a smart city. So that means that if they are planning to build 100 smart cities without taking into account that the people that it's going to take that cities is the people coming from the countryside, and they need a kind of a specific job, they wouldn't be able to succeed with the cities. They would have 100 desert cities. Another project that I've done in my life is this one for the European Investment Bank. It was a project analyzing the problems of the city. The European Investment Bank wanted to finance smart city projects in all the fields. I mean, smart energy, smart mobility, smart living, in all the fields, and they have a limited budget. So they don't know how to prioritize what projects they should finance and what projects they shouldn't. For this reason, they ask us for a tool that allows them prioritize that. First, we start from the very beginning. We start seeing what are the problems of the city with very simple indicators. And we see those problems and we scale up to the problems that they're gonna have in the future. So in that landscape, in that ecosystem, we put the smart city project in the middle, and we range the projects according to the results of how it's going to impact in the reality of the city. This is something simple, and this is not something that we make up. This man, Jamie Leonard, I guess some of you know about him. He was one of the best mayors of Curitiba, and probably one of the best urbanists in the world in the history. He always was saying that cities wasn't the problem, city was the solution, and he was right. That's for sure. And additionally, he was introducing the concept of acupuncture urbanism, which means that you have to understand all the concepts of the city globally in a very big scale to be able to act locally in a very small scale to solve the illness or the problem that the city has. And that's what we take. However, when you look at the reality of the city, how the city works the same as companies. They work on departments. For example, the people who is working on the mobility department, they are very expert on mobility. And they know exactly what are the achievements, what are the goals, and what are the challenges. However, as they are working only on very small side of the city, they are not able to achieve the solution that they want with the resources they have. So cities, as well as companies, are starting to say, we have to combine different departments to create a different perspective, and that way we can achieve the solution with the resources we have. And when you have several perspectives, is what they call a smart project. And only when you have several perspectives, it's when you start to call it a disruptive project. And that's what we do at the Master in City Science. What we try to do is create that connection between all the departments to see the city from all the perspectives that you may have, to get the city that everybody wants, that you want. However, a city is not only for you. A city has to be designed for all the citizens that lives in there. And every each of them has different necessities. But we only have one city, we only have one face for that different views. So there is growing a lot of rankings about the quality of the life of smart cities, or each city is better, a lot of methodology to understand a city. But however, I've been working for almost a year assessing those methodologies and those rankings for the Ministry of Development here at Spain. And I never see a methodology who first try to understand what are the citizen needs and later say, okay, after analyzing what are the citizen needs and what are the potential citizens that we would like to have in the future because our vision of our city, this is the best city, the best quality of cities, and because indeed cities are competing in each other, trying to attract the most talent possible. For dealing with that issue, understanding what's the problem of the citizen, I always like to focus in the Lean Startup. The Lean Startup is a methodology made up or designed by Eric Rice in 2011 in his book, which basically says when you have a startup or something that you don't know what's as your customer or what are the needs that you work in the uncertainty as the same as you work in the city. You need to build something quick, put it on the market, and try to understand the much as possible from your customers. And this is something that we need to do in cities. And this is something that Facebook indeed is doing. Facebook has developed an ecosystem, a digital ecosystem where everything is measured. They know your age, they know your likes, they know everything about you, and that way they can provide a service using that information. They use mainly two types of algorithms to understand that. The regression algorithms, which is, for example, if you like for actor or for USA actors, usually you go once per week at the cinema. That is something that you have. Or if you live 15 meters ahead of a cinema, you also go once per week to a cinema. That is what they call, there are several methodologies to do that, what is they call the regression. And once you have that, you can do clusterization, which is taking all the people which have similar possibilities to for example, go per 1 week to the cinema, and that way you can sell to the films market that people is going to, the people who is more willing to go to the cinema than to the others. That is something that they are doing using not only the information you write at the very beginning of your profile, but also everything you type on it, the audios you upload, the images, or the videos. As you see, there is quite a big difference between how much a video processing you need and how much you need for texting. This is the same that when you have a very big, you first have your first computer, you start working on it, and after a couple of years or after 3 years, you said, this computer doesn't work anymore properly, so I'm gonna upgrade my computer. And you get a better computer, and so on. But the problem here is the data is increasingly so big that this doesn't work like that anymore. A personal computer, a unique computer, is not able to deal with all that information. So what is happening is starting the concept of big data. Big data means that you have a very big volume data sets, you have data sets with very big velocity, and you have data sets with different varieties. I mean, you have photos, you have videos, you have text, that kind of things. This market is growing a lot, and it's happening a lot of solutions. For example, the solution of the volume is being solved using tools as Hadoop, which means that instead of analyzing the image on one computer, you distribute in several computers all around the world, and you take the task in each of those computers. So when they come to the same place, they put together, and you get that analysis with a small batch of 1 day, with a small time of 1 day. If you need more velocity, there is another solution as Spark that gives you almost in real time that analysis. And if you need to get the information from, instead of the profile that I was saying before, like you are 13 years old, that is a table, which means this is structured query languages, which is how we have been using our servers traditionally. You can use now the images, and you can send also the images in not only SQL servers, and having all that solution is perfectly solved. So in the end, the feasible issues of the big data for applying the city, because it's the same information that we will have in Facebook, that the one we will have in cities, is perfectly, you can do it perfectly. And also, when you figure out the data of how the value of the storage of the information and how much the transit data information is been doing, you can see how it's decreasing dramatically in the last years. So it's also viable doing that analysis economically talking. The main problem, and because this is not happening in cities, is because there is not such a profile who is able to understand the city as a whole. I mean, in the private market, it's more simple because the owner or CEO of the company knows perfectly their market. However, as the city is clusterized in several departments, there is nobody who understands the city properly, who understands the city in a holistic way. And this kind of figure, the figure who is going to lead the future of cities, is the figure that we are trying to educate in our master in city science. So thank you very much. Nothing else. I'm gonna Alex to present Tono.
Well, thank you, Javier. The next speaker is Tono Fernández, and his presentation is called Anti-Stack Thinking Tools. I will upload it now. Okay.
Hello, good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are. So I'm a student this year of the master, and what I'm going to show you now to explain is a project or a research having done during the year, which will be the base of the last project we will present on September, final thesis for the master. This work will be the basis for a PhD, which has already to be defined, and will be possibly the basis for a market product we are beginning to develop under this overall research in a conceptual way, and trying to transform and trying to link the research and the market and the university and the world in a single stage. So mostly the work is related with tools and people, and it's because there's a huge sensibility in the last years of collapsing. This is not just a feeling, it has been brightened and researched by many scientists. I'm gonna show you some of them, which and you will already. I finished this first part of the work 2 months ago, and I don't have to tell you what has happened in the world in the last 2 months. Beginning from the Brexit, all the warnings in Europe and the crisis we are having with between that stupid stuff we are beginning to feel between relations and intolerance So we have a little sense of collapse, and this sense, this feeling is growing each day and has a lot to do with cities because we don't know how to manage them properly. Just for beginning, to introduce the concept of collapse, we used to talk of collapse in a very linear way, like you maybe already know, linear collapse of, for example, a building, which has many stages that always warns you when it's gonna happen. Okay, but what happens with cities is that they are not gonna warn you because they are dynamic process. So it's difficult to know what is gonna happen and when in that dynamic process, because you don't know, you almost never know how it's gonna be the behavior of the system. And what happens is that we are dealing with these complex systems at the same time, and with a huge difference with the past collapses of civilizations and cities that maybe has a lot to do in the past. There are two new features that we're gonna feel and that have been pointed out by many researchers. One is that the collapse will be for everyone and everywhere, and you have felt what has happened with crisis, economical crisis of 2008. But it's almost proved that we won't have a place in order to go unless we go to the moon quickly, and afterwards it's going to happen very quickly because technology is making everything. It's increasing the speed of everything, and it's very possible that if we don't have any measures in order to be aware of the signals of collapse, we won't be aware and the failure will be massive. Just a brief walk under some researches. For example, Joseph Tainter has worked a lot on the basis of complexity linked to collapse, and talking about that in order to avoid collapse, a society must increase the levels of complexity each day, every day, and at the same time, he focused his research in alienation and in the need of separation that happens when people feels alone, when people is disgregated, and finally, when we are not designing cities for people. It's interesting that almost at the same time, Geoffrey West did a research in where he demonstrated from the mathematical point of view that it doesn't matter any biological system, whale or any for example, our city or butterfly or whatever you think, has a reason of scale which is related with a fraction of 3/4, which means that if you increase, if you double your size, you will consume 25% less energy or whatever, but at the same time, you will increase your complexity in 15%. This means that once you double your size, doesn't matter what kind of system you use, you think about, you will reduce your need for consumption to 25%, and you will increase your complexity 15%, which is a very nice, not just thinking on Tainter's ideas. But what happens is that this increasing of complexity, we transform our butterfly in a much bigger one with 1.15, has one problem. First, as Martin has demonstrated, you have to control that complexity, as you will already imagine. And second, what was demonstrated is that you have to develop an incredible amount of innovation in order to increasing the complexity and trying to understand that complexity. And that innovation must be higher each time in order for not to collapse the system. This is really interesting because without knowing themselves, Danger had pointed that technological innovation was the only way in order to avoid collapse. And in that way, Martin has demonstrated too that two cities with the same size and different levels of innovation has really different level of incomes and economical ratings. So what is interesting here is that we are talking about numbers, systems, which are almost biological. We are treating the city as a system, but we are talking about people because people is a network of the system, of the cities, and that's the point we have to focus on. But what happens with that complexity? This complexity, now we face one complexity, but it increases. Again, we try to control it, but every day when we think that we have everything under control, we increase the ways we do it, complexity increases and goes again to a place where we have a problem. Because every day we have more butterflies, because we have more information. And the thing is that this is a continuous cycle that we are living in. Doesn't matter the civilization. What is interesting here is that we can say today that we can measure all that stuff, which was impossible to measure like 20 or 30 years before. And we cannot continue considering the social sciences like no sciences or no objective sciences, because we can measure all these things. Thinking on cities and specifically, as you will already know, we think in the Villaradians of the Corbusier or, for example, Niemeyer in Brasilia. That epithets of planning were almost broken conceptually with the quarrel that was between Jane Jacobs and the city of New York, the council, with the Manhattan Project. Yeah, the power of people arrived to stop a project that was under development for more than 30 years. And the thing that was inherent here is that we are still fighting between planning and non-planning because we still consider that it's not very easy to think the city others want. And this placed the planning community and architects and a few engineers in a huge problem because at the same time there was a very famous text written by Reinhard Beinheim, Cedric Price, Peter Hall, that proposed one solution. That it was okay. Let's be things like they are, and we must avoid planning. This happens in 1979, almost the same year that when Jacobs arranged to stop the Manhattan Project. And since then, Bauhaus, for example, and their team developed some theoretical cities, and we have Sandow, and we have Mazda too. But what's happening? We have, all the cities we think that they are namer, but they are not. They have been already built, and people is living there. And for example, here in Madrid, we have an incredible amount of plans that are a huge mistake in terms of not in planning, not in non-planning, just for people to live. And what is incredible is that we know know already today that they are a mistake. And a few months ago, the City Council of Madrid approved another plan, which has been done in with the same spirit of the other 6 before. So we have a problem because we are still thinking that, like in the 60s, maybe it's better not to plan, and we are reducing all that stuff to governance problem. You see on one side Valparaíso, which is non-planning development, and you see on the other side the favelas, for example, in Brazil, that has non-planning to. But the difference is that in Valparaíso, the land is the property of the ones which are making the houses. So there's a huge difference on the quality of the space. There's not a public space, but the quality of the space of these houses and the buildings is much better here than in for example, in Brazil or in Peru. The thing is that we still have more than half a century after we have the same discussion now. And the question is that if we can solve it. Because we are trying to put many people together, of many disciplines, like we are facing and we are touching in the master. But the last time there's a lot of intelligent people working, but we don't know how to solve things. And there's a lot of individual and isolated researchers and very interesting studies and many interesting universities and labs. But it seems that all that researchings are isolated, and we are facing a world that will be incredible in 20 years. So the thing is that we are in a hurry. We have to reshape ourselves, and we have to change the way we think. It's not necessarily to increase the researching on specific fields, because more or less, and almost in social sciences, everyone knows everything, but everyone is split away. No one knows what's the other doing, and there is not a way in order to put all that people to work together. And we can rethink on a very old issue that has been our advantage from any other spaces, and it's just using tools. The thesis is that we don't need many more research. We could stop researching of all the labs and the researching groups and the universities, and beginning to work on new tools that enables us to see the world in another way and to rethink the world. You know, things that have changed our lives in the last 10 years. We will change a lot in the next 5 years, putting in a problem by the way we perceive the world and the way we use the infrastructures. And the thesis is that tools have hair. Tools have moral characteristics and features that you can use. If a tool makes you to work compulsory with another person, working alone is not a possibility. And in the same way, you can put moral characteristics on tools that makes them an incredible way to reshape our brains, because we are not gonna be able to do it with the educative projects because we are in a hurry. These are being developed by Patrick Geddes in the vertical way. What we have to do today is like cross all the tools of each specific science and trying to put all them together in order to work together and not let avoiding letting the knowledge isolated in boxes that everyone has in his office, like a treasure that is not shared with anyone. So the conclusion is just to a set of tools that can help us to reshape all the way we think. The first is just creating a collective space of thinking all together, a convergent space, which can be a software which is linked to the frozen information and the amount of researchings that have already been done. Second is a way of rethinking cities with a very simple way. That is just to rethinking cities, thinking that they are a product and they have, of course, they have a value proposition. You cannot come to you work in a city council. You cannot come and say, okay, I have seen a beautiful city in Thailandia and I'm going to copy there here, which has happened truly in many cities. You have to design the city for your customers, for your people, and you have to determine the key activities, identify them, the key resources. You have to identify all the key partners and the cost structure and the revenue streams you want to have. So trying to rethink city as a product with a very simple tools that in the last 10 years have been developed to develop products related with design thinking and lean startup can be a very simple way in order to put everyone to work together in one single document, and at the same time to think the city in a proper way. This is easy and cost zero. And afterwards, we have to rethink, and this is really important. Maybe these two first are simple tools. There is not a huge development that must be done in order to arrive to them. The next ones maybe are more complex, but without them, all the work will fail, because we are treating the information of the city in a static way, for example, and we are not dealing with time. We are not, for example, we are not able to talk about mixed-use cities. We talk about mixed-use buildings, but not mixed-use cities because the property of the earth, and we are not able to increase the complexity and the spatial complexity, and at the same time we are not introducing the socioeconomic issues on the graphic documents. The socio-economic and mostly the social issues are treated like consequences, not like interesting tools in order to work with, because everyone thinks that you cannot measure them. And it's incredible because we have many examples, for example, in the big malls of the world, where they are really treated like very quantitative issues, at the point that the malls developed the first lean startups products without knowing them, just watching what people was doing and treating that behavior as a tool in order to reshape the spaces. So we can introduce them into our GIS layers in order to really work with that stuff, with like Charles Booth suggested. Other thing is introduce time in the plans, in the 3D plans. In our 3D plans, we come with our mixed-use cities. So we can't print all the plans. We must let them to be informed 24/7 and to change wherever they have to change. without avoiding, printing the plans and putting them in a box and forgetting them. Plans are changing, the world is changing, and there's no point in making this. Of course, we have to introduce that socio-economical issues on the living cycle processes, like Odom. I don't know if you know Charles Odom, but it's a very nice guy, which worked a lot from the 50s to the 80s, and trying to mix with a lot of effort, trying to mix quantitative and qualitative concepts into very specific diagrams. We can do it and rethink that stuff in order to rethink the cycles and trying to, again, not to think that socioeconomical issues are consequences instead of causes, and we can design with them. And finally, as you will already know, treating cities like an amount of systems that forgetting the people makes them to react and think in ways that we don't like. Thinking in Detroit, people has even begin to burn their own city. And the thing is that the people began to burn the city in 1970. And the bankrupt of Detroit happened in 2012. It's 42 years of blind observation. And finally, we have to change the syntax, the way we talk about, and in 3 ways. First, reshaping the writing and spoken language, and introducing new concepts. Second, replacing and you will say, okay, what for? We have a very interesting example here in Spain with a political party which knows very well how to manage with the language, and explains that concept in a very contemporary way that you can watch in a very new film, which is a document of Fernando León de Aranoa, and you can read that stuff even in Aldo Rossi, when he was really obsessed with the organic, with that quarrel between functionality and rationality, and as you know, he was very concerned with the obstacle that the language in, for example, just functionalist way had in order to reshape cities, and this happened in 1965. So we are not saying anything new. Thinking how we talk about urban acupuncture, we talk about urban acupuncture in a very physical way, thinking what we do in cities, but we are not thinking what happens with that physical actuations. You have the example of Barcelona, which is used to be placed like an example of that urban acupuncture, but it's just a physical way in order to see that urbanistic approach. The social consequences in Barcelona were not very acupuncture consequences, were huge consequences, and they have not even been measured till now. And afterwards, finally, we have to reshape the way we mix the words and the way we work with them, with that new concept, creating a new language, which has human as a central point in order to work with, reshaping all the stuff, all the language, and changing the structure, like David Bohm, a very famous physicist who always Nobel Prize winners, maybe you know, suggested a long time, like 15 years ago. So we have to rethink how to work together, redesigning the tools and working together in order to go home and it memo it all together in a very nice way. And I left you that paragraph of David Bohm, in which he points out the need for not to research more in an isolating way, but to take good attention to the thought, of the process of thought, taking care of that process and not to the content. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you, Tono. Now there comes the questions. The structure of this part is I'd like you, if you have any question or any doubt about anything you have heard of, and mostly about the MCS program, to write it down. If you have, like in this sort of way, I'm typing down. So you have to. I'd like to help me out the structure, how I pose the questions back to both Tono and Javier. I'd like you to do this before you write the question. So something like this. So it would be both a B for both, J for Javier, who's sitting here, and T for Tono, who's sitting on my other side, and just posing the question. I will be reading the questions aloud and posing the questions to them so they can answer you about any doubt you have. Yeah. Also, we have the possibility of using the thumbs up, which is okay. No, it's above. It's here. So if you can with a microphone and a webcam, you can also come with us online, and we can see you and you can ask the questions directly. I would like to remember you that Javier is the MCS coordinator of this year, and Tono is a student, current student today. Okay, so first question for Javier. Do you give support for visas and validation studies?
Yes, we do. Once you get accepted, we will be happy to help you from the secretary of the Master in City Science to support with any visa or any validation student you may have, and provide any documents that you may need, of course.
Okay, another question is, what do I have to do? It's for Javier again. What do I have to do to join the Master in City Sciences?
Well, it's very simple. You just have to go to our webpage, to the application site, or send us an email with your CV, 2 recommendation letters, and 1 motivation letter. The process of application is very simple. You get first a committee analyze your documents. If you pass that first step, you will be invited for an interview. It might be personal, or it might be online using a platform like this or using Skype. So after that, the academic committee again meets and sort it out which are the candidates who is going to join with us next year. I will strongly recommend you, if you are interested in joining to our program, to do it, to send the documentation as fast as possible, because we are doing some interviews this week. We are going to do some interviews next week, and after the summer break, it's going to have less space for more candidates.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next question by Leticia. For Tono, do you recommend this MCS?
No. No, of course I do. The best, maybe. First, to be clear, I don't have anything to do with the master. I'm just have done the master this year, and if I have to repeat it, I would. I mean, I think that is really it's really needed in order to understand cities and the complexity of them, and I think that will be a huge field of work in the future. Maybe it's not very easy to explain what do we do in the master, because it's very big, and it's not what is city sciences. It's not a very easy question to answer, but I think we already think and feel that is the only way in order to make better cities, and I think it gives you the idea of how to manage with cities in a very holistic way in order afterwards to deal with other professionals. Maybe you can, I don't know, be the thinker or the coordinator of a very big team, or you can be you can specialize yourself in a very specific field. But anyhow, knowing how everything works in a very in a big way, with understanding the complexity of other fields is absolutely necessary in order to work even in a specialized field. So of course I